But as someone who is very empathetic towards people, almost to a fault, where I almost bear burdens, a lot of times and carry a lot of that. It always just is a privilege and an honor to be invited into people's situations like this. And I think, Dante, you hit on it a little bit. And I guess my encouragement would be, when we talk about these exacerbated situations and we talk about the doom loop and the ping pong of social anxieties and then loneliness and then depression and then all of these other circumstances, is just all wrapped up in a lot of shame. And especially when you are trying to, pull yourself out, and you can't do it on your own. Well, why can't I do this on my own? Like, what a loser. I can't believe. And then even, like I said, Dante, I think you touched on it quite a bit. Like when you said, when you're talking about some of your experience in college, you said, I know other people probably have more serious things. No, if it was that for you, then like, absolutely. Like this is legitimate. And this was something that caused you a lot of loneliness and trouble. And so for a lot of people, it might be that same way where there's a shame, like, oh, well, other people are going through a lot worse things. And so I can't, I just kind of need to bury this down deep.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when our self-image is shot is where that a lot of shame and loneliness can kind of loom over us. And so my thoughts biblically or scripturally is, and I brought Joe Sr.'s book here, the Psalms, the life of David. I know I've talked about it before, but Senior was big into the life of David. He loved quoting Psalms and just some of the life of David. He went through many, many times of loneliness and depressions recorded all throughout the Psalms, his prayers, his crying out to God, or for someone to listen to him. So early on in his life, he was on the run. They were trying to kill him. People were trying to kill him. He was hiding. Later in his life, there was family turmoil. Like how many of around the holidays, This Is Us. There was political unrest. People were trying to usurp his throne. There was just a lot.
Yeah.
And many times David was fleeing away. He was running away. He was lonely. And Psalms 142 is a prayer of David. And he's just kind of like crying out. Verse 1 says, with my voice I cry out to the Lord. With my voice I plead for mercy to the Lord. I pour out my complaints before him. I tell my trouble before him. And so he's just going on to just get into the very depths with, he's got nothing left. We might call this rock bottom. All the shame is looming. All the guilt is looming. Why can't I get myself out of this? And we don't want to reach out to somebody because we want to put on this. And again, back to social media and this facade, we want to put on this, I've got everything together. I can do this. I can pull and how many programs are like that? If you follow these 5 steps, 10 steps, you can do this. You can't. Like you can't. You need somebody. You need help from the Lord or a friend that is there also. And so I think a lot of times, and where I appreciate David here in Psalm 142, is he's just very plainly saying like, God, I'm pouring out my complaints before you. I'm telling all of my trouble before you. And so like we spoke earlier, take an inventory of your thoughts, not holding back things, but just letting it all rip out, letting it all pour out. And Dante, your dad here, Senior, he highlighted this section and put a bracket around this section, just put, wow. And it says this, it says, God longs to hear your words. Your honest and your forthright declaration is precisely what prayer is all about. It is a discipline that ignites incredible results. And so there's something so profound when we're able to just, whether it's with a trusted friend, whether it's with Swaggy, with Nick, or whether it's with, whomever that's close to you that you're seen and loved by, to just, here's everything that's going on. Here's the trouble that I'm in. Here's the anxieties that I'm feeling. And if you don't have that person, I would just encourage that you can pray to the Lord, just like David is doing here. You can lay those requests before him. He continues on. My spirit faints within me. In the path where I walk, they've hidden a trap for me. Again, people are after him. They're trying to kill him. Verse 5, I cry to you, O Lord. I say you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors. They are too strong for me. Bring me out of prison. So he's just going on about this constant pursuit and this constant struggle about everything that he's going through. He's in a cave, so just even visibly and in context, in a cave is a very desolate and lonely place. And no one is shaming David here. No one is saying like, man, you're crazy.
Get it together.
Yeah, what the heck is wrong with it? Pull yourself out of this thing. And again, our encouragement is God does not do this to you either. Yeah, there's this quote that says, the quickest way to be consumed with what other people think about you is to forget what God says about you. And all throughout his scriptures, he talks about how you are loved, valued, cherished, you're useful, you're needed. There's a purpose for your life. And so to be constantly reminding yourself of those things as you're giving all of your worries, your anxieties, scripture talks about rolling them onto the Lord, doing all of that. And I know this is very, this is in my lane, so to speak, with preaching. And I know it's a lot difficult. And let me just say, I have a tough time doing this, but they're like, heeding my own advice is what I'm saying. I'm being very vulnerable. But there are times when you just, for those of you and for those of us who are experiencing times of loneliness, depression, anxieties, absolutely seek professional help. It's not doctor or God.
Right.
It's both.
Yep.
It's both. God has given doctors wisdom. So don't for a second it's, one or the other. But most definitely get professional help. But don't forget what God says about you. Continue to just lay bare. And when you hit that moment, like I said, I think all of us get to this moment where like, I can't get out of this. I can't Zen my way. I can't pray my way out of this. I can't exercise my way out of this. Whatever this, so-called solution is that we think we may find, we have to come to this place where it's like, I have to get all of this out. I have to take inventory of my thoughts. I just have to put all of these prayers down on paper. I've got to just tell somebody, in different religions, denominations, called confession.
Yep.
How much better do you feel when you're able to just confess? And scripture says we have that ability to go straight to Jesus and confess.